Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to talk about widget. So what is basically the widget? So widget is called as a basic building block, and it is for the GUI interface in our application. So in order to understand what the widget is really about, let me just run the app that we made previously. So let me just play this button and you could see this is our GUI. So basically everything that you render over here, that is your name, which is a text field, and your password, which is in text here, and here is a view for the editing the text. These are all the field and these are known as the widget. So they are basically a building block or a base building block of a GUI, and basically it provides also a canvas and that can be used to draw on the screen. So basically it is helped to just receive the entire event, and we can also react to them. Basically if I just hit here any key, that means we have just received the event, that is on click event on press basically. And if I just press in this widget, then this is basically for the on click, and you can see on touch and on click over here. So when I just click on this password field, you could see the on click, and when I just go here and type something, you can see on touch event. Basically I'm just pressing any key on the keyboard, that means there is another event. So let's deep dive into how these widgets are made and what the widget tree is all about. So I have already said you before that in this build function that we have just made from this basically our app module, that is inheriting from our app module. When I just go to this declaration part, then you could see we have something that is a build function over here. And if I just go down here, then you could see that it has a documentation saying this method returns a widget, that is basically a tree, and it always used as a root widget and it can be added to the window. So let's talk about now widget tree. So basically widget in Kivy are organized in the form of tree. What I mean by tree is the structure that you have a node over there and you have a children that is in the form of root. When I say that, let me just go over here and grab a pen. So if you see here, we have just run this app that was made previously, and we have the grid layout over here, and grid layout was basically a node that was a root node, and the password and name field were their children. So if you just analyze this tree, you could see we have a two children of a root node, which is grid layout. So it is basically an tree, and this tree is formed by this build method. So when the tree is made, and it is basically returned, and it is also added to the window in order to render. So what we need to know about the widget is basically it has a children and it has a list of property of its own, that is it can have name field, it can have another field, and basically in this name field you can also add several property to this name field as a children of this name as a node, and you can also add same property to the password, and you can also add multiple here, that is in widget. So basically I can add a button here as a next widget in our grid layout, so that can be the next child of this grid layout. So basically we'll just form a tree, and that tree will be returned as a widget object from here, that is our build function, which is rendered over here in our window. So next thing what you need to know is about the widget tree and all of these function. That is, if you see here, we have added this add widget function in order to render our widget to the console. So let's talk about that now. So first of all, let's analyze how this widget tree can be manipulated by the several functions. So we have already studied about one function that was basically a add widget. So this is to add a widget as a child. So if I just make a username here, so that means it will just make a widget that is basically a text field to this grid layout, which is a node of our tree, basically a root node. So grid layout will be considered as a root node. If you just see here, it will be the root node, and if you just add a new field, and it will be considered as a child of that root node, and it is done by using this add widget function or a method. And second is remove widget. So same as the add widget, so same as the add widget method, in order to add the widget to the tree, we have a remove widget method method in order to remove the widget from the child list. So if you see here, we have a list of widget that is maintained over a list, and you can see we can have a multiple widget, but in this case we have only a name and password, which is basically our children list. So in order to just remove any of this widget from the list, we'll just make use of a remove list function. So let me just show you a demo here, so how it can be performed. So first of all, I can just put here something that is just remove list method that is using this remove widget. So it can just have the self, and basically it will just contain a widget, so the widget to be removed. So let me just say remove me password field. So let's press this button in order to see the effect of this remove widget method on the widget that is password field. So basically this password field was a field where you can write this password, and it was basically a multi-line given as false. So let me just press this button, and you could see there is a removal of a widget that was basically a text input for the password. So this can be easily done by using this remove widget method. So the next method that we are really interested in is clear widget method. So this basically removes all the children from the widget. So instead of just remove, I'll just say clear widget, and basically let me just put here that is the widget and all the children. Basically it will just remove all the children. Let me play this first, and you could see that we don't have any widget now. So while calling this clear widget, it shouldn't be any parameter over here. So let me just remove this and play it again. Then you could see we have an empty widget here. So there was all the removal of the widget that we made over here. So let me just remove this first, that is a clear widget, and let me show you there was a widget. When we just play this, then you could see all of our widget. Then when I just roll back this method, that is clear widget method, over here you could see an empty and black screen over here, which doesn't contain any of the widget. So basically this was due to this clear widget method, which is used to remove all the children from the widget. So next thing what we are really interested in is the layout. So first of all, we'll just take an example of the box layout. So let me just show you what the box layout is really about. So if you see here, this is our box layout. So in this box layout, what we have is a vertical and horizontal orientation. So in each of this vertical and horizontal orientation, you can have multiple elements or multiple widget placed on each of this part of the box layout. So it is really important to know about this box layout, because it gives you freedom in order to implement across the different part of your layout, so that your GUI becomes more compact and becomes more interactive. So let's go back and see how this box layout can be implemented using the Kivy in our Python. So first of all, we have to just import our box layout. So it is same as importing this grid layout that we did before. So let me just grab this all, and let me just paste it down here. And instead of grid layout, now it's time to just add the box layout. So let me say it should be box layout over here, and just give here as a box layout. So you are good to go. So next thing is we'll just add a layout over here. So let me say that is it should be box layout, and if I just go here and let me make a layout that is variable, and this layout will basically be assigned as in box layout, which is our object. So let me just give a padding over here. That would be, let me say 16, or you could give anything from, let me say 18. And next thing is I'll just add a button now. So in order to add a button, we have to just call the button class. So I'll just say that is button, and give the attribute to the button. So the important attribute to the button can be the text. So let me say my first button over here. So let me say my first button. So we haven't imported the button, so first we have to import the button. In order to import the button, I'll just say from Kivy, and it is basically a UIX. So I'll just say now button. So it should be button over here, and I'll just import this button class. and you can use now this button class in order to render the button in your GUI. So next thing is to just add now this widget, that is our button, into this layout, which is basically box layout. So let me say add this button, which is our widget, to this layout. So we are done over here. So let me just go back over here. We really don't need this all this stuff, so let me just remove that, and let's go over here. And so this is the way in order to add the widget to the layout, that is, you just make a layout variable, which is basically an object of this box layout or any other layout like float layout, or you have a multiple layout, and in that layout you just have to traverse now. So this is the way in order to add the widget by using this add widget method, that will just take the layout, which is basically an instance of this box layout or any other layout like float layout, grid layout, and it will just take that instance and we'll just call this add widget method. So similar of that clear or just remove widget method of level, we also can use the clear widget method over here in order to just remove the button or any the children list of widget from our tree. So in order to traverse the tree, we have to make the node root further layout. So first of all, I'll just make a node first, so box layout, and while calling this box layout instances or the init method of the box layout, we don't pass any attribute or any text over here or any reference, like here we have a text or here we have an attribute like a padding, or you can go in this app and you can see, not in app but it should be in this box layout. So if you just go to this box layout declaration, then you could see we can pass a spacing, we can pass a padding over here, and orientation either horizontal or vertical, and we can also bind them to the console. So next step is to just loop over this node. So in order to loop, I'll just say that is for child, and I'll just make a child variable in root, and we have something that is root dot children over here. So in this root dot children, so it should be node dot children because we have a node over here. So in this node dot children, we'll just loop and we'll just print this child. So if you have any child in this root node, that is basically our box layout, it will just print by using this for loop, which is basically a traversing through the tree, which is maintained as in child list property. So it basically contains all the children, that is basically our widget like button, text, field, and you can also have many GUI elements over there maintained as a tree, and you can just loop around it and you can just print all the child and get the information about it just by traversing with the help of this for loop. So you could wonder why this for loop is so important, because this printing just a child is just a normal case, because we already know that we have just added the button and we have many layouts, we have a widget that will be specified over this init method. So why it is important to just traverse over this children node? So basically in order to just traverse, we just make use of for loop, because we must have to modify the children list with one of the method, and basically to do that we have to know and track these children. So what I really mean here is, let me just take example first. Let me say for child again, and in this node, that is our node which is a box layout, and I'll just say track this child over here and just get the every child, and let me just go down here, and over here what you're gonna do is we'll just manipulate the tree. So in order to manipulate the tree, we have to just get all the children. So I'll just say if child, that is our children, that can be any widget that is maintained in this tree, and I'll just take the width of that child, and if the width of that child, let me say, is less than 500, that means if it is less than 500 width for any children, I have to just remove that. So in order to remove, we'll just make use of this remove widget method, and I'll just pass here child. So you could see the importance of traversing through this node children. We can just track any children over here by just looping around and just giving the condition to track for individual children, and we can do operation, that is to remove, that is to add, or that is to clear from the console based on this condition. So it would be really important to know about the traversing across the list of the children that is maintained in the tree by the Python and basically by our Kivy. So next is to learn about the different layout, that can be box layout, that can be float layout, that can be grid layout, and that will be covered in the next lecture. See you in the next.